order for you to understand what I did and why, I must introduce you to my favorite opera, Madame Butterfly by Giacomo Puccini. First produced at La Scala Milan in 1904, it is now beloved throughout the Western world. And why not? Its heroine, Cho-Cho-San, also known as Butterfly, is a feminine ideal, beautiful and brave. And its hero, the man for whom she gives up everything, is not very good looking, not too bright, and pretty much a wimp. Benjamin Franklin Pinkerton of the United States Navy. As the curtain rises, he's just closed on two great bargains. One on a house, the other on a woman. Call it a package deal. Pinkerton purchased the right to the woman, Butterfly, for 100 yen. In modern currency, equivalent to about 66 cents. So, he's feeling pretty pleased with himself as Sharpless, the American consul, arrives to witness the marriage.
Very attractive to think, oh, the East would really give up everything in order to be like us. And it's very attractive to think, oh, this woman would renounce everything around her and just look to me, a man, as her god, so to speak.
I suppose the stereotype Eastern woman would be that she is delicate, she's fragile, she's vulnerable, she's submissive, she's good at every beck and call from a man, and therefore she makes the man feel that he is all-powerful, and therefore he is very sexy.
Next, Butterfly makes her entrance. We learn her age, 15, but very mature for her years. But as she glides past him, beautiful, laughing softly behind her fan, don't we who are men sigh with hope? We who are not handsome, nor brave, nor powerful, yet somehow believe, like Pinkerton, that we deserve a Butterfly. She arrives with all her possessions in the folds of her sleeves, lays them all out for her man to do with as he pleases, even her life itself. She bows her head as she whispers that she's not even worth the 100 yen he gave her. He's already given too much when we know he's really had to give nothing at all. In real life, women who put their total worth at less than 66 cents are quite hard to find.
At the time that I started thinking about writing the play, I actually hadn't heard or seen or read the opera Madame Butterfly. I only really knew Butterfly as a cultural stereotype. When I was growing up in California, we would say she's pulling a butterfly or something if a woman was sort of doing the submissive Oriental number. And but I assumed, therefore, that since Madame Butterfly was sort of the archetypal East-West romance on which sort of all subsequent models have been based, that it would have to include certain cliches. It would be essentially about an Asian woman who falls in love with this white guy and suffers a lot, you know. And fortunately, when I actually did get the libretto and listen to the opera and read it, I mean, it did contain sort of these cliches that sexual and racist stereotypes, and it turned out to be perfect for my play.
It was a fascinating attempt to deconstruct an opera that I'd always rather despised.
It's based on the true story of a French diplomat who had been tried for espionage in France in 1986. And he had been stationed in Beijing for a while and in Paris for a while. And while he was in Beijing, he had an affair with a Chinese actress. And this lasted 20 years, and part of the time in Beijing and then later in Paris. And this actress turned out to be a man in drag and also a spy. And the French diplomat claims not to have known that for 20 years. And the play is sort of about, well, how could this be? I was reading an interview with the actual French diplomat, whose name is Bernard Borsica, in the New York Times. Borsica was trying to account for the fact that he'd never seen his Chinese lover naked. And he said, well, I thought she was very modest. I thought it was a Chinese custom. So I read that and I thought, well, that's not really a Chinese custom. And so I began to think, well, maybe he'd fallen in love not with an actual person, but with sort of a fantasy stereotype of the Orient. And that led me to think about the opera Madame Butterfly, and whether or not there was some way to tie that all in, to say that the diplomat at the beginning of the play fantasizes himself to be Pinkerton and believes that he's found his butterfly. And by the end of the play, the diplomat realizes that it's he, in fact, who's the butterfly, and that he's the one who's been sacrificed for love, and the Chinese spy was therefore the actual Pinkerton.
Excuse me, monsieur.
Ah, Garama, Mademoiselle, a beautiful...
Sung Lee Lee.
It's a beautiful performance.
Oh, please, you make me blush. I'm no opera singer at all.
I usually don't like Butterfly.
I can't blame you in the least.
I mean, the story.
Ridiculous.
Now, I like the story... What?
Oh, you like it.
No, what I mean is I've always seen it played by huge women in so much bad makeup.
Bad makeup is not unique to the West.
Yes, but who can believe them?
And you believe me?
Absolutely. You were utterly convincing. Do you know this is the first time I've seen the beauty of the...
As a Japanese woman, the Japanese used hundreds of our people for medical experiments during the war, you know. But I gather such an irony is lost on you.
No. I was about to say this is the first time I've seen the beauty of the story.
Really?
Of her death. It is a pure sacrifice. He's unworthy, but what can she do? She loves him so much. It is a very beautiful story.
Well, yes. To a Westerner.
Excuse me?
It is one of your favorite fantasies, isn't it? The submissive Oriental woman and the cruel white man.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't quite...
Consider it this way. What would you say if a blonde homecoming queen fell in love with a short Japanese businessman? He treats her cruelly, then goes on for 3 years, during which time she prays to his picture and turns down marriage from a young Kennedy. Then, when she learns he has remarried, she kills herself. Now, I believe you would consider this girl to be a deranged idiot, correct? But because it's an Oriental who kills herself for a Westerner, you find it beautiful.
Yeah, no, I see your point.
Madam Butterfly, who have done us the honor to call, he wished to go hurriedly. His shoes, hasten them.
The Belasco play. That is not advanced at all. It's an old-fashioned piece of 19th century melodrama in which the Asians are treated as, written as, slightly weak-minded servants in the deep south of America. I mean, look at the dialogue. And allowing for the time and the place, it's still racist.
Oh, God, you mean I'm not Lieutenant B.F. Pinkerton's wife? Me? Hardly.
Well, the first time I saw the opera, when I was 16, you see, I didn't know what the word sexist meant. And I certainly didn't know what racism was about at that age. But by the time I got to the end of the opera, I think I did. I thought it was a repellent piece of work. Beautiful music, which kind of sugarcoats a morally indefensible story, but then that's what opera does a lot of the time. Unfortunately, people who go to opera tend to leave their brains in the box office, so it doesn't really matter.
Act 2 begins with Butterfly staring at the ocean. Pinkerton has been called back to the United States and given his wife a detailed schedule of his plans. In the column marked return date, he's written, when the robins nest. Well, this fails to ignite her suspicions, but now 3 years have passed without a peep from him, which brings a response from her faithful servant, Suzuki.
Girl, he's a loser. What'd he ever give you? 19 cents and those ugly day-glow stockings. Look, it's finished, kaput, done. And you should be glad. I mean, the guy was a woofer. He tried before, you know, before he met you. He went down to Geisha Central and plunked down his spare change in front of the usual candidates. Everyone else gagged. These are hungry prostitutes, and they were not interested. Get the picture? Now stop slavering when an American ship sails in, and let's make some bucks. I mean yen. We are broke. Now, what about Yamadori? The man is a prince, figuratively, and what's even better, literally. He's rich, he's handsome, he says he'll die if you don't marry him. And he's even willing to overlook the little fact that you've been deflowered all over the place by a foreign devil. What do you mean? But he's Japanese. You're Japanese. You think you've been touched by the whitey god? He was a sailor with dirty hands.